Easy Sports Talk Show with Javon Adams and Ed Smith, or should I say with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. My name is Javon. You can call me Jay or J Love. That man next to me is the one and only Ed Smith. He not only played professional baseball, but also played in the NFL for that first Super Bowl bound team for the Atlanta Falcons. He is a motivational speaker. He is an author. He can get down in the kitchen and on the grill. What is good, my brother?
Oh, chilling, man. Off to a good Monday. A lot of stuff going on between the Olympics. The NFL kicked off. I mean, man, we was busy.
So before we get into a couple of topics that I wanted to run by you and get your thoughts on, how much of the Olympics did you watch over the weekend? I want to say for me, probably about 2 minutes. And not because I was avoiding it, just because I was ripping and running a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think might have skimmed a couple minutes of basketball and then a few minutes of the women's gymnastics team, and that was it. And I would say an amount around, if you want to say minutes, maybe 10, about that.
Okay, cool. So let's get into a few topics. A couple of them are going to be, well, they're football related. Here's one thing before we get into this. One of the things that I really like about sports, or being able to talk about sports, is kind of the mental side of it, and the kind of getting into the why, the emotion of it, those types of things. I never thought, and I'm sure that you probably felt the same way, is that going into the minutia of how much this person makes versus that person, is that person worth that money? And you start to get into all these things when you get away from, we don't necessarily get into X's and O's and fast twitch muscles, but we get into the other things of the sport. And I think there are so many people that love to, what we call pocket watch. I can't imagine how annoying it would be for me to turn on the radio and somebody to say, yeah, Javon over there making blah, blah, blah amount of money. Is he worth that amount of money? And so that's why I'm always careful about the way in which we talk about people making money, from a respectful way, because I want people to make as much money as possible, because we live in the United States of America. So let's get this money.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't remember when it was and I guess it's always been where athlete salaries have been public record, and just as you said, everybody's watching the pockets. Everybody's interested about these contracts. I never worry about like the dollar amount that guys are making. I marvel at how much money there is to make out there, and how these owners. Yes. Yeah, how these owners, like, for instance, you got these contracts upwards of, especially in basketball, you're talking about $300 million players and stuff like that. I marvel at the fact that owners can actually pay that and not even flinch an eyebrow. It's like, so if the players are making X, what are the owners? Maybe we should make the owners' records open.
How much money they profit, and what's that? Not only their revenue, but how much are they profiting as well?
Exactly. So, it's interesting because everybody wants to know what the athlete is making. And then the first thing you want to do is, like you said, debate, is he worth it? And then compare him to this player and that player, and only because it's public record. But, like I said, for me, it's just the amount of money, especially with these television deals, that it blows my mind how much money is actually out there. You'd almost think that like the NBA and NFL and some of these other leagues, MLB, they're printing their own money, but no, they're playing with the same dollars that we are, and it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy, and it speaks to, I guess, the popularity and the demand for the NFL being king, and then the other sports kind of falling in line afterwards. So let's get into a couple things, and this is a couple of contract extensions that were dished out on Friday with Tua Tagovailoa and then Jordan Love with the Dolphins and the Packers respectively, and they both got paid. They got a lot of money. Here's what I will say that would be kind of annoying. Well, I don't even think I will be annoyed because I'm getting paid either way. But Tua gets his money. Let's say he gets it at 2:00. Let's just say 2:00 Pacific. Let's just say, and then at 2:15, Jordan gets more. So you can't even enjoy being the highest paid. But I don't need to be the highest paid. I can be, if I'm number 2 by a few pennies, I'm still getting paid my money, and I'm not tripping.
Well, here's the crazy part, Jay, is that every time a quarterback comes up, he's got to be the next highest paid.
He don't have to be, but the teams always make it that way.
And that's crazy to me. For me, if I'm an economist or I'm running one of these, teams, I'm like, well, you might want this much, but you're not worth that much. I mean, just because you're up doesn't mean you like with Dak. They're all waiting for the guy before them to sign so they can get an extra, however many million tacked onto theirs. And then, the other thing is the contracts, like those last years of the contracts when they backload them, we all know those are the quarter. They're not going to see that money. They usually backload them and then they restructure it or give them an extension and level some of that money out for the next few years. Or if you don't meet the criteria, they'll release you behind. So that's what happens with a lot of the position players, especially when they get older. The contracts are backloaded. And they never see that last year or two on the contract. But, with the quarterbacks, man, it's just the next man up. He's got to make this much, and it just blows my mind. And instead of for their worth, what they, hey, Jordan, you've given us half of one great season.
Well, that's the Packers' fault, though. A lot of that is the Packers' fault. And again, and maybe this is where we can kind of segue into, because the question that I pose to you is which one of these two players, if you had to choose, is more deserving or has the higher ceiling, wherever you want to take that? Because the thing that was bold for the Green Bay Packers to do, I guess not bold because they've done it in their past, was to draft the next man up. And so, but it seems like maybe, I think, what is my man, that plays on the Jets? Why I can't, it's quarterback for
Zach Wilson?
No,
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Thank you. So when Aaron Rodgers took his game to another level because the replacement was there, like nipping at his heels, so to speak, that kind of made them have to adjust, I think, their plans there. But they wanted Jordan Love to be the man. It just so happened that they had to wait a little bit longer. And when he finally got his chance, he's good enough, but the sample size is not, it's a small sample size. I think people have been recounting this for the last few weeks here. It wasn't a full season at high level. It was the last half of the season that was at a high level. And you're hoping that can extrapolate out to being a higher performing, or to being worth being a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show it's all about timing. And as you mentioned, the Packers have a history of drafting their replacement some years earlier. They did the same thing with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Let the understudy sit there for a little bit. And they rather shoot too early than too late. And that's what they've kind of done. Now on the flip side, teams are like, well, we don't want to waste those first few years on the rookie contract to see what we have and then be able to evaluate and then get the most out of it and then pay the guy. And we see what happened with Jordan Love. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option last year. They ended up restructuring his contract. He'd already been sitting on the bench for 3 years. He goes out and he balls out. Now you're stuck with, well, we got to give him a contract. That type of thing. So they're working, they're their best and worst enemy at the same time. Right. The thing with them, they've rolled into three quarterbacks over the last 3+ decades, probably even longer, and it's like, how do you do that? They do it maybe because they don't have an owner meddling and stuff like that. They let their scouting team go out there and figure things out. But for somehow they've mastered that kind of position, and but
that's a better. I would think that would be a better way to do it, right? If you think
absolutely.
Because even if we use the example right now where we're talking about the Green Bay Packers, but the Patriots did that a couple different times too, because they drafted with they had Garoppolo that they thought was going to replace Brady, and then they also it was a gentleman that came out, Castle was who they had on the roster, and when Brady went down and he ended up stepping up for that season where he ended up getting injured, I think in the first week. And so you have these things, and eventually if you feel that your starting quarterback is the better option, then you'll either just trade or let that backup go, depending on what the demand is for him. I think that's a better way to do it than feeling that you're stuck and that you have no options like a lot of teams do, and therefore they end up dishing out these contracts or just keeping those quarterbacks around because if you bring somebody new in, they're starting from ground zero, and you're having to groom them instead of somebody being in your system for a couple of seasons at least.
Yeah, I mean, I love the thought of now. Why is it that you can? I know quarterbacks are divas, but why is it you can draft at every single other position a backup or somebody who's ready to go when the time is right? Besides the quarterback, you can do that for every other position, but you can't do it for the most important position. And that some say in all of professional sports. And you don't want to hurt your quarterback's feelings. I'd be like, look, I would go to my quarterback and say every other year or so, we're looking for your replacement because of injury, because it's might be time to eventually replace you. Period. But don't get your feelings hurt. Go out there and ball out, and we have no reason to worry about replacing you. But I mean, they getting, and I would say this much too, though, Jay. Teams are hurting. Well, I would say the league or ownership has hurt themselves because you can no longer carry two quarterbacks that long. You can't, like, if you're giving these franchise deals, 230 million deals, 160, 170 guaranteed, you have to go cheap at that position, because say if you went out and got a new one and he sat around too long, now, like you said, you have to trade him or you have to pay him, and you can't do that in today's economics. So, I mean, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I'll be honest with you, I would rather be damned if I did, because I would so much rather be prepared and moving on from one great one to the next good or great one than some of these teams, just consistently searching. We have teams, organizations that haven't had a franchise quarterback. Like look at the Dolphins. They finally signed Tua, and he looks like he's their guy since, Dan Marino was the last one. You look at the Cleveland Browns. They went out and gave all that guaranteed money to Watson because they were starved. They've been searching for years and years. So, I mean,
what do they say? Yeah, because you mentioned that brings up a saying: "Don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry." And they was hungry, and they got that, and they ended up signing Watson to that deal, which is ridiculous. And they ain't hungry no more. And they realized we got a little bit. Why we buy all that? Why we buy all these chips?
They went out and got that the grocery store sushi, bro. That's what they got. Don't that look good? Yeah. they got that grocery store sushi. We all know that's not high quality, but they went out and they were hungry and they was ready to go. All they needed was some soy sauce and wasabi, boy, and they sitting out the parking lot eating in the parking lot, bro.
So what you think? So what do you think? Do you think Jordan Love or Tua, in terms of if you were? I'm not using the analogy of if you had to start a team today and all that stuff, but just in terms of when you're looking at both of those teams and their situations, who has the higher ceiling? I would think Jordan Love, because there's still so much we don't know about him, and that if you look at when you break it on down, the athleticism and some of those different things, his mobility may be a little bit better, and he doesn't have the injury history that Tua has with those concussions. Because those concussions, they're nothing to laugh at.
I would think in this instance, both answers can be correct, right?
Okay.
Tua is the perfect guy for Miami. He fits their system. I mean, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but you're talking about being able to, on timing and fitting it into some of the windows that he fits it into and running that offense. He fits that perfectly. Green Bay, you got a young dude who can improvise a little bit. He's a little more athletic, bigger, stronger, can take more punishment if necessary. He's perfect for Green Bay and what they do. We saw how they went into Dallas last year in the playoff game and just demolished them and had a chance to beat San Fran out there as well. So I think both organizations should be happy with what they have. Tua, he's got to prove it that he can win in the postseason and in cold weather. That would scare me a little bit, because when you talk about that division, when you have to go up north to Buffalo and even the Jets. I mean, you talking about cold weather games in January. Hope and he could be the guy for them in Miami. But when they're playing in Miami, he might not be that dude when they have to go up there to the sub-freezing temperatures and stuff like that. But for now, like I said, he's proven that he earned that contract, and they're gonna ride with him. We'll see what they do moving forward. And I know Green Bay's got to be happy as well.
Indeed. Easy Sports Talk Show with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. He's Ed Smith. I'm Javon Adams. Make sure you tell a friend about us, easysportstalk.com, easysportstalk.com. And so we mentioned those two quarterbacks. So your philosophy, sit and learn or start right away, because we have a lot of starting quarterback. We have some rookies that are coming in this season. And so if I'm looking at them, where are we at? So some of those rookie quarterbacks that might end up starting this season, we got Caleb Williams, who's going to end up starting. We got Jaden Daniels, who's going to be starting, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr. Maybe he'll get a little bit of playing time towards the end of the season, just depending on where the Falcons are at in injury. JJ McCarthy, he more than likely he'll be starting because they let Kirk Cousins go so that they could end up drafting somebody. Bo Nix, he's going to start too. He's going to get some reps. Then Spencer Rattler and some others going from there. But your philosophy, sit and learn or throw them into the fire? Because I'll say I'm more sit and learn, because it's almost like being like training day. If you go on, let's say you're a delivery person, they say, well, just go on your route and just do it. No. Let me know what the intricacies. Let me know the little things that I should know about how to go and deliver, how to go and talk to the receiving person, how to do all those little things that can help make my day more efficient, but more specifically help me to make sure I'm driving this revenue, right? So I would say sit and learn, at least for a season, is what I would think.
I'm exactly the same as you. I'd love for my quarterback to be able to come in with a veteran in front of him to show, because the game is so different at the highest level, Jay. I never experienced college sports. Obviously, I went to a different route, but I watched my brother go through it, and even just as a tight end, the different things you have to learn getting to the next level is unbelievable. And as a quarterback, I always remind you of this. As a quarterback, you not only have to know your job, you have to know everybody else's job on the field all at the same time, and know exactly what the defense is throwing at you as well. And everything happens in 30-second intervals. So, I mean, how difficult is it? Just a few short months ago, you're playing in college where everybody's looking over at boards with Mickey Mouse and Buzz Lightyear and stuff like that.
That's right.
And then you just clap your hands and running the play, and then you're throwing the wide open wide receivers, that type of thing. You're not having to read anything for the most part. And then all of a sudden now you got to go to the line of scrimmage, read the defense, call the audible, get in and out of plays. You got these beasts coming at you. Everything's moving so fast. I'd rather have my quarterback ease into that, maybe whatever happened. I never understood this as well, Jay. When did it get to a point where the starting quarterback never comes off the field? Meaning, it's everybody else, I was always waiting when tight end out there got tired and he threw his hand. I'm running out there. I'm getting out there, that type of thing.
That is
when now you got these blowouts, you're beating a team by 20, 30 in the fourth quarter. What's wrong with getting your quarterback, your backup young dude in there for live action during the season? Get him away from holding the clipboard the whole season. Why not get him in there to get some live action against the, real action during the season? But now it's like every quarterback, I can't have, I'm not missing a step. I think if I'm not mistaken, Peyton Manning was notorious for that.
Yeah.
He wasn't giving up squat.
Right.
And for me, it's like the perfect opportunity to groom your young quarterback, give him a time to go in there, even if it's just to hand the ball off a few times. But he's in there, getting a chance to call real plays, see the defense, maybe throw a couple times. No harm, no foul, because you've blown the other team out. Who was it last year? They didn't with Tua. They scored 70 points against Denver. He was in there digging until the fourth quarter. It's like, So I just don't understand. I'm with you. I would find ways to get my young quarterback an opportunity to walk into the situation rather than be thrown into the fire, and then, find opportunities for him to get some snaps during the regular season. And then if we're not heading to the playoffs in that year, then you maybe in the last portion of the season, you get him out there and you start, we're getting ready for next year now. Look what they did with Mahomes. Mahomes played one game in his rookie year, and it was the last game. It was after they had already locked everything up for the playoffs. You think that worked out pretty good for them? They missed out on that rookie season, so they didn't take advantage of. Okay, I think it's worked out pretty good for them, and I think more teams should. Now one of the issues right now, we have so many younger quarterbacks that have the starting position right now, so we don't even have a whole lot of veterans that are really there to be on the roster and be a mentor now.
And that could be a salary cap thing too. It will at least. So here's the thing. I think and I heard somebody say this yesterday when I was driving around, is that oftentimes GMs will say, well, we got to when they try to take advantage of a quarterback's rookie deal. And this, so I think I'll be able to do the Chris Rock and make it come full circle. They try to take advantage of a quarterback's rookie deal to be able to surround him with enough talent. They pay, all the other, all the other, either other side of the ball or whatever it is, they pay him. And then when it's time for the quarterback to make money, they say, well, sorry, we got to tear it all down because that's just how it goes. No, if you're a GM, you're supposed to do, because you mentioned Kansas City, you're supposed to be looking for talent, no matter if it's the first round or the seventh round. You're supposed to try to find talent that can help your team win. And I think the same thing can be said when you're trying to coach these players up, these young players up, as opposed to just saying learning on the job. You really need to surround them with veterans to be able to help them to grow into the best player that they can be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a team sport for a reason. And, it does start off the field as well with your coaching staff. You got to have all the right pieces in place. And it starts with management and ownership and all that kind of stuff, but it all ends with the players and with the quarterback position. There's a happy medium out there, Jay. I mean, it doesn't have to be this way or that way 100%. Some teams, we don't have the right quarterback out there. We got to go find him now. Some teams, bring a guy in and let him learn. I mean, this whole thing now where it's got to be one way or the other. And just because, we go draft a guy, we got to get him in there as soon as possible. That's not necessarily the case. No. There are some organizations out there. I like what the situation that Michael Penix Jr. is in. I like the fact he's going to be able to learn behind Kirk Cousins. Kirk, your feelings are a little hurt. Hey, get over it. We're paying you $100 million, to go out and do your thing.
The better you play, Kirk, the longer that he'll sit on the bench.
Yeah, and I also have to tell Kurt, and if we're not winning championships, Kurt, then it would also be time to move on. So, I mean, if you've taken us to a Super Bowl, we got nothing but love for you. But if you're getting us to the playoffs and we're getting ousted in the first round, or we're battling for a playoff position but not quite getting there, we got this young dude that we do think could eventually get us there. And the sooner we get him in, the quicker he can get his career and everything started. So that is another added piece of the puzzle. But like I said, we get over it, man. Part of your job is to teach him, mentor him, because we're paying you a whole lot of money. And, like I said, unless you be bringing us Super Bowls, it'll be time for you to move on as well.
I do want to shift gears in just a sec, but how often do we see this? And I think this is where it comes. This is where the breakdown, either there's a gap between what veteran quarterbacks will maybe understanding that they're not the player that they once were, that they didn't reach their expectations, or it's the GM just throwing in the towel. How many times do we see the starting quarterback get injured and now let's hit the open market. Let's see who's out there on free agency to try to find somebody to take this quarterback's place or to try to help us out. That person should already be on your roster. If you're doing it right, they might be young, or maybe they haven't played in a few years because they're the backup, but you should be you want to be preparing as if it's real, as much as you can. Obviously, when you're in practice and there's only so many snaps that you're going to get, but you want to have that person on your roster that knows your system, as opposed to having to go and find somebody to try to come and save the day.
How stupid did the New York Jets look last year when you bring in Aaron Rodgers and you got Zach Wilson, who was a first-round pick, and he looked as bad as he did? That's a reflection on not just the GM for drafting that kid, but also the coaching staff for not having him coached up to the point that he could even look halfway presentable. I've never seen anything that embarrassing from a staff. This dude looked so confused and just overwhelmed. And this is not if you didn't win the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, that was supposed to be your starting quarterback. That's what you had your franchise hung on. So it shows you how good and bad front offices can be, and also how incorrect science is when it comes to, thinking, you got the guy in your building. So yeah, a lot goes into it, man. You gotta, and some of it is not between the shoulders. It's what's on top of his shoulders, meaning the head, man. I mean, sometimes I look at how they draft these kids and you think, wow, they thought that was a first round talent. It might,
I think they get nervous. The GMs are, we got to take a quarterback because of XYZ. But that's a conversation that could be had for forever and ever. He's Ed Smith. I'm Javon Adams. This is Easy Sports Talk Show with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. We do this thing 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You mentioned it's not always, it's oftentimes it's what's in the head. Oftentimes we want to know what's going on in the head of the head coach. But when you're watching a football game, when you have all your 75 different screens, Easy, do you ever think, I wish they would interview the coach right now so I can find out why what he's going to do in the second half, because I'm sure he's going to tell us, right?
Man, I'll tell you, I don't know how some of those coaches don't get fined during that period, because the last for me, because I was a player, and it also goes with these player interviews, and you see, I don't know if you've seen a pattern, especially in the NBA now, they won't even send the head coach over. They'll send a dude from the back end of the bench to come over and give the 2-minute prognostication, because head coach don't want to be bothered with it. Don't even want his assistant coach. Same thing, the halftime reports when they're coming out the tunnel and stuff like that. I mean, do all the interviews before the game. I don't know why you're bothering these.
To that point, the NFL with the NFL is now requiring that head coaches do in-game interviews, not just because you'll see the one is at the end of the half or maybe the beginning of the game, but they got to do 2. The head coach, and it can't be, as you mentioned, sometimes in the NBA they'll send whoever. Oh yeah, go over there and talk to him. Man. I'm over here trying to draw up these plays, right? But they have to, and I think there's a tipping point for too much access, because if I'm a head coach, I'm not going to tell you, well, what we got to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to go into, we're really going to go man to man, and we're going to try to do some fire blitzes, and you'll see it. We're going to disguise them so they don't understand what's coming and when it's coming. So just make sure you don't tell them that. But I'm glad you asked me. Have a great game. Come on, man.
Well, for me, it's sickening. The coach speak that you get during those interviews is so. I mean, they might as well just have a script there so they can pick which analogy to throw out there, or bland piece of information, because they're not going to give you anything. Just like you said, But me personally, if I was standing there, I'd do the Rasheed Wallace. I'm just here so I don't get fined, my man. I'm just here so I don't get fired, girl. Thanks, coach. Yeah. Have a good second half. Thank you. I mean, I got nothing to say. What you want to hear, Yeah. So I do think those are so cheesy, and the coaches try to, give you something without giving you anything. In the end, man, it's pointless. I don't know why they we already got everybody mic'd up, but now we got to go and jam a microphone in this coach's face while he's trying to get everybody, get the game going and stuff like that. It's a pain, man.
And the reporters, you can't be mad at the reporters, but because they can't ask in-depth questions, but you ask basic questions. So, Coach, you're down 14-10. What are you going to do in the second half? Score more points than them. Okay, so how do you think you're going to score more points? It looks like you only have 30 yards rushing. Rush the ball more.
I like the coaches that make them work for it too. I'm not going to stop and talk to you. You have to keep up with me.
You see them jogging, work for it, man. little light jog is there. Yeah, coach, tell me what you
make them work for it, dog.
Oh, Lord. So last one before we head out of here. Again, make sure you tell a friend about what we do here, EasySportsTalk.com. Subscribe on YouTube, The Easy Sports Talk Show. The NBA is this new media rights deal. So what is it, $11 billion, if I'm not mistaken, over 11 years. And one of the things is they're going, and this is a trend where leagues are going more towards streaming. I was at a watering hole that you and I go to. Well, I go to much more than you. You just come and visit me sometimes and say, "Where's Jay at?" Yeah, the watering hole. And Roku on Sundays for Major League Baseball, right? So they're streaming there. You have Amazon when it comes to not only NBA but the NFL as well. There's a tipping point because you're more of if we're talking about the NFL, I would say you are much more of a Rabbit fan than me. I'm the guy that, okay, I'll watch a little more casually, and of course because of what we do, I'm paying attention to the bigger storylines, right? Trying to take more of a macro approach to it. But if I gotta go, I might have Amazon if I have to go find it to figure out where the game is for this NBA game or when it comes to Peacock, when it comes to the playoffs for the NFL. I mean, there's a tipping point for me. And I wonder if they're letting their eyes get bigger than their stomach when it comes to trying to take all this money, but you might end up losing something in the exchange there.
Jay, I'm devout when it comes to my NFL. Not so much when it comes to NBA, and definitely don't watch a lot of MLB. But when the NFL is on a slippery slope in terms of if you continue to make me go search for it and pay for it all at the same time, when I'm already paying a buttload of money to, I mean, how many more subscriptions can I go out and get, Jay? I had to go get Amazon, for the package. Now I got to go get YouTube for the package. Yeah. Then I got to go to Amazon. Then they snuck Peacock in on us, bruh, when they had playoff games that were on Peacock, and you had to have a paid subscription for Peacock to get the playoff game. How you gonna make fans at the last minute, it's like, wait a minute, I got to go to get Peacock. It's not on NBC. So now you're going to start stretching it so thin where we're going to have so many people, so many subscriptions. You're just going to start to lose me. I'm going to pay for less and watch less. I mean, and I'm one of those avid people. Think about people that are casual, and you're going to make them go search for it and buy it all through the year. And at some point, and with the NBA, they lost me. When you start making, doggone well, I'm not paying for anything on the NBA. TNT, TBS, I love that. Now all of a sudden you're going to make me go to Peacock and NBC and that.
Yeah, because NBC has it, so they're gonna leverage Peacock, and then Amazon's coming in. And I'd rather be sitting on the couch. Oh yeah, it's Tuesday. Yeah, let me go ahead and turn on this TNT. Yeah, let me see what they're talking about.
Before you know it, the NBA is going to have their games on, like, it's going to start to be pay-per-view where, you got to go get the subscription. And I'll be honest with you, that's a fight they'll lose for me. And then, sitting in at the same time, you got all those, different, people paying for the subscription and stuff. You're going to start losing people because we're not going to put up with it forever. Right. I mean, I'm to the point now where, like I said, you start making me pay for playoff games. I got to go get a subscription. Like I said, with the NFL, you watch. I'll be finding different things to do, man, and looking for the highlights at the end of the games because you're not going to continue to do this to me. But meanwhile, they think, well, everybody's going to come find us. Keep it up, all you leagues. Keep it up. Before you know it, you're going to be begging us to come back, and it's going to be too late. I hate it, man. I hate it.
That's theirs was a work stoppage related, but when you think about the NHL and how they lost so much of what they had built up over years, and when they had their work stoppage, I think it was almost a decade ago, and how they had to really take multiple steps back to try to even begin to grow the viewing fan, the viewership when it came to that. So yeah. So he is Ed Smith. I am Javon Adams. We do this thing 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tell a friend about what we have going on. Again, you can go to EasySportsTalk.com. You can also subscribe on YouTube, The Easy Sports Talk Show. And however you got this, we appreciate it. Let your friends know. And as we always like to say around this time, you can